So the purpose of this is there's been a lot going on in the university, and it's worthwhile to have a reflection halfway through, and it is worthwhile for me to get a chance to field questions and understand what you are thinking of. So I really do encourage you to ask your questions at the end. Whichever way you look at it, the first half of 2018 has been tremendously interesting, but I would dare say exciting. And some great things have happened. We've obviously also had some relatively challenging issues emerge. When I reflect back, though, there are some great highlights. We've announced how we're going to be changing the way we admit students starting in 2020, and I'm sure there will be a few hiccups along the way. But it's a pretty substantial change. It's a clear statement to Australia that our national university is for anyone from any background who has the will and drive to succeed at one of the best universities in the world, that they're going to be welcome here alongside other future leaders. And so it's really important, I think, as a university, that we are seen as being of the nation, not just an elite institution, disconnected, as we have seen perceptions emerge in both the UK and the United States of universities. So we want to get out in front, and we genuinely want to fill that role. I'm also proud of the changes we've made to support academics and parents of all of our staff, including a major expansion of paid parental leave. That is a place where we are truly one of the leading institutions in the country, and even my friends in Denmark said we are pretty respectable by their standards. We're not, I think we're within cooey of them, but we're not quite there. So, you know, that greater flexibility in leave entitlements is really meant to support the roles of partners in caring for children and helping address a big gender equity gap that's still at our university. But male parents, this is for you to go out and be part of parenting. And I really encourage everyone to encourage their colleagues to take up this, however they want. The flexibility is there for you. We've also done some fun activities in my own area. In May, we got over 60,000 people around the country joined together looking up at the sky. It was a great communal event. I loved it for that thing, people just getting out and having fun. It felt like something from my childhood in how communities get together. And hopefully people had the chance to just reflect on what it is, what a wonder the world is. And of course we set a Guinness World Record at the same time, so that was great. These are all moments when our national university was truly national. And we have made many, many achievements, discoveries, and awards, of which it's worthwhile just reflecting on a few. Last week, our researchers in earth science announced the discovery of the world's oldest life-based pigments, which is really quite a profound breakthrough. And you will see that this is the time in the evolution of life on Earth where life was able to transform great things that make up chlorophyll and other things that really energized life's ability to thrive on Earth. That is a huge discovery. In engineering, we've recently announced tiny optical sensors that can be put into wearable devices that allow people to sense what's going on and detect issues much earlier than you can now. In CAS, we launched the Australian Studies Institute last week. We had hundreds of people from around the world. And the idea here at ANU is we are focused for all of these programs that are emerging around the world, and we can help coordinate evidence-based policy analysis and research on Australian issues. And that means we're taking Australia to the world. Our physicists have helped design new satellite instruments. A landmark study in Fenner has indicated that Melbourne's water supply may well be under threat due to a collapse of the ecosystem around it. Our biologists have found new ways to make trees and food crops more resilient by how we do their seed collection. We are in the process through our School of Literature and Languages and Linguistics, bringing back indigenous languages from the brink of extinction through researching and reconstructing them and then going out and teaching them to the communities they come from. So those are all just a handful of the many things that we have been doing. The research is having impact, and it's great that that's just 6 months worth, and some of those things are going to be iconic discoveries that will truly affect how we think about the world and how we act in our world. Not everything, of course, has been smooth sailing. I think most of us would have been hard to miss the kerfuffle that emerged from our decision to withdraw from negotiations with the Ramsey Center for Western Civilization. That was all about the potential of creating a new degree here at ANU, and the large amount of discussion, I think in the end, was, while outside the university, largely removed from the reality on the ground here at ANU, it really is a pause. It's a chance to think about who and what we are as an institution. So far from turning our back on Western civilization, we continue to be a university that leads the world in its core subjects of anthropology, archaeology, politics, international studies, history, law, sociology, philosophy, English language, and literature. Those are all places where we would consider ourselves a world leader. So we're not walking away from it. The prospect of doing more while offering full scholarships for a diverse cohort of nearly 150 undergraduate students was indeed very exciting. But ANU, as I think everyone in this room recognizes, cannot, nor will we ever, compromise our academic autonomy, integrity, and freedom in order to make a relationship work. And so that is why we did what we did. I do greatly appreciate the huge amount of support that we had, and I do think it was important. If I had to do it over again, I would have had those negotiations. They were important negotiations to have. But in the end, I think it's not on us. We did the right thing. And I do hope that I certainly have learned a lot from that. And I do note that from every challenge, there's a great opportunity. So hopefully you, like me, had a chance to think about what autonomy, integrity, and freedom really means for a university. I mean, we sort of take it for granted. But I had a chance to really sit down and think very fundamentally why those things are important. And I hope you did too. Because without them, we truly cannot understand the nature of things. That's what it comes down to. The university cannot be the institution it needs to be unless we have those fundamental things. And I think in the process, we've had a chance to bring to the forefront, to society more broadly, why those characteristics are important. So that's a good thing, despite what I was to say, a fair bit of pain for many of us. The offer of the Ramsey program has, of course, given us a chance to think about how we might further enhance these important areas of the university. And so I am working with the College of Arts and Social Sciences and other related disciplines to think about new teaching and research capacity in this area. And of course, we'll continue to look at other opportunities to enhance what we do there. We really want to thank the team and Cass for being on what was a bit of a roller coaster ride together, but one which I think we have emerged stronger for it. Long before we started talking to the Ramsey board, and for well more than a year, our academic board, under the leadership of Professor Jackie Lowe, here in row 3, has been working to address the issue of academic freedom and its expression here at ANU. This has included engaging external experts and conducting a whole of university survey, and of course, a lot of impassioned consultation and debate. And I'm very pleased to announce that the board unanimously agreed to a statement of academic freedom for the university. The statement builds on our code of conduct and recognizes that academic freedom is fundamental to ANU, and importantly, the statement affirms our values and commitment to fearlessly upholding academic freedom in Australia and around the world. So in the coming months, we're going to be reviewing our policy framework to make sure everything's aligned and we don't have any disconnects from that, from the statement in our existing policies. And we will provide unambiguous guidance and support for staff, students, and official visitors alike. In parallel, the board is going to be continuing to work and conclude its project on academic integrity around student work. So this is something that one way or another will involve us all. And while we may well have some uncomfortable conversations that you fundamentally disagree with, it is really important for us to be able to have that, no matter what the issue is. And so I think this is a really important milestone for the university to rethink about this in the context of 2018. And so I thank you, Jackie, and to the academic board for taking that on. Last year, we launched the strategic plan, and this year, across the university, I have been very proud about how the university has gotten behind many of the plan's initiatives that ultimately are there to help make the university a better place to work and a more effective university in doing what we all are here to do. We've been doing many things, including trying to understand better how we can use the National Institute grant. This batch of funding, roughly $200 million we get each year, that is meant to differentiate ANU and to help us provide benefit to the nation. And ultimately, it's the thing that underpins our role as the national university. So with each of the schools getting the National Institute grant, we had conversations about what they were doing and for the first time really gained a holistic picture as to the long-term benefits of this grant and how we are using it. And I should say it was a lot of work. It was uncomfortable in some things, but from my perspective, I feel very proud of what we're doing, but I also know that it's much easier now for us to have a conversation with the Minister of Education, for example, because we have a much better idea of what we're doing. And we're thinking very strategically of what we're going to do in the future. And so that's a great thing for us to do. And I think in the end, we're all better for it, despite some of the pain of thinking anew about what we're doing. So as of today, you can now see some of the great work that is supported by the National Institute grant through the About ANU webpage. So I encourage you to have a look at that at some point when it makes sense to you. We've also been doing some real progress in other things. For example, the Entrepreneurial Academic Scheme. This was something to, I would say, lend credence to the point that, yes, we are here to do the fundamental research, but we also encourage people to have impact with that research, whether it's social impact or it is impact through businesses and government. And so, as part of that, we've had 3 innovation institutes announced in the past 12 months. So, our very high-profile Florence V. McKenzie Professor Genevieve Bell has launched her 3A Institute, which I'm very grateful is not Autonomy Autonomy Agency and Assurance Institute. And she's already gathered a formidable team of interdisciplinary experts. They're already starting to lay the foundations for what is meant to be a new applied science. Same way that ANU invented demography, 40 or 50 years ago, we're in the way of inventing a new discipline, which we're still looking for a name, I think. But managing the impact on humanity by the design and use of artificial intelligence, big data, and technology is going to be imperative if society is going to continue to benefit from all of these new things that we're doing. Noting that technology is disrupting things like how democracy works. And we really need to have a deep understanding about how all of this fits together. I truly believe we're leading the world here. And it's an exciting thing that's going to involve essentially every single discipline at this university on either the technology or the humanities side. Last month, we announced that Leslie Seebeck would be joining ANU as the inaugural CEO of the ANU Cyber Institute. She has a huge amount of experience, and she's going to, again, bring things together from across the university. This isn't just computer science. It's about how you deal with security in a very broad way. You have to make it work with people. And I'm sure everyone here has an immaculate 13-character password that is uncrackable. Well, that is one way to do things, but I think we can also be more clever about designing systems that are human-friendly. I don't know about you, but a random 13-character password I cannot memorize, especially if I have 27 of them. So I have help in the form of a password manager. I encourage you to think about getting one because this will become a bigger issue rather than a smaller issue in the future. But again, the nation is truly looking at us to lead the cybersecurity debate and discussion and understanding. So that is something that it's great that we have Leslie here on board. Meanwhile, in a very, what I would describe, innovative model, Where Optimo, led by entrepreneurial fellow Professor Mark Kendall, has been established to develop wearable devices that integrate into personal medicine. Where Optimo has already received funding from the Australian government's Biomed Tech Horizons program and is backed by ANU to transform the wearable landscape in the years to come. So it's meant to be a new way of universities interacting with our entrepreneurs. It's an experiment, and we will learn as we go, and hopefully are able to use what we learn to build this out to even a wider range of people. So I think Mark Kendall, who is the inventor behind the nano patch, which is a way of delivering vaccines and stuff, for example, without a needle and without refrigeration required, is an amazing person to have on board. Within the College of Engineering Computer Sciences Reimagine project, we're beginning to see momentum be gathered. This is to create 2 new research schools, among other things, to really change, again, engineering to not just be, you know, pulleys, cement, and surveying tools. It's really meant to think about the new way that engineering interacts with all other disciplines. So they're going to need a bigger space on campus with respect to infrastructure, and trying to get that integrated with the other things we're doing is one of the issues we're facing, noting I think we're all relatively sick of construction around campus, so I'm trying to make sure we can reflect and enjoy our new campus next year without tearing it up again. But in the end, Eleanor and her team are going to be coming around campus and wanting to talk to you, because her vision for engineering involves everyone. And in doing so, I'm hoping that we are able to make it a discipline that cuts across society differently and, God forbid, includes a large number of women in it, because engineering is one of the most gendered disciplines across Australia. And if you think about what engineering is going to look like over the coming 30 or 40 years. It's going to be a lot more of that design thinking about how technology interfaces with humans. And that is something that I think we want a very diverse group of people thinking about, rather than by a very small subset of society, which, from my experience, are not always really good at making things human-friendly. As I said, that project's going on at speed. We have the appointment of Deputy Dean for the college, Nick Burbillis, who will be arriving a little bit later in the year. He's an outstanding appointment. And again, I really encourage you to seek out Eleanor and explore the ideas you have. We've also made another of strategic appointments in 3 entrepreneurial academics. I've already told you about Genevieve and Mark, but we've also brought back Lachlan Blackhall, who was essentially the entrepreneur behind Reposit, which some of you may be using here in the ACT. He has come in as part of a major partnership between us and the ACT government on battery storage and grid integration. And indeed, in that area, a group at the university just had a successful trial in Tasmania where we were able to show how this works in real-life situations. So that's going to be a huge issue going forward. If you look at all the reports that have emerged in the media over the last couple of weeks, they're always talking about how we get that integration for the future grid. And we're the people working on that. So it's great to have him on board as well. We also have 2 translational fellows. They're focused on getting research from the academic world to industry. So Celine Dorgeville from RSAA and Dr. Ki Seong from the Research School of Computer Science have both been our inaugural people in this area, but they're, again, the beginning. And we need to all learn. You know, you don't have to be an entrepreneur at this university. You can sit down and do great fundamental research. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, we're going to support you all the way because it's an important part of what we can do. The inaugural winner of the ANU Grand Challenges, Our Health in Our Hands, has had its governance and budget approved, and projects will be starting up this month. And so for anyone who missed it, the project aims at revolutionizing personalized medicine through wearable sensor technologies, of which I've talked to you several times about already today in other guises, and integrating that with genomics, tailored to individual needs, focusing on global health priorities of diabetes and multiple sclerosis. This is something, again, that we will be a world leader in. The 2018 Grand Challenges are ongoing right now. We have 8 bids have been shortlisted for interview next month, and I give my commiserations to those who have gone in and were not shortlisted. It's always, this is not, remember, the only way to succeed, but it is great to have so many strong bids this year. There will be public presentations of the 3 finalists in September, where we'll announce the winning team, and they will receive up to $10 million in funding. And those should be both entertaining and informative. And it's a big investment of really thinking about what we can do next. I've been very focused on making sure we support especially the young people when they come into this university. So we have had 26 people, new faculty members, receive funding under our Futures scheme. And so that is almost $10 million in strategic funds meant to, when we bring new people in here, launch their careers before they have access to regular external funding through government agencies, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things, that's a real important window in people's life. And rather than just picking what I would say people who are already on their way, who tend to be very expensive and hard to get to relocate and things, if you really look at the great people that ANU has produced, we've almost entirely produced them ourselves. And so this is meant to recapture the strength of the university from its infancy and make sure that we, when we do bring someone in, we really support them and allow them to launch their career. We've also committed to redefining our PhD program. ANU has always had a PhD program that was seen as different across Australia, but that difference has eroded away over the last 25 to 30 years. And so redefining the ANU PhD has got a green paper that's published for consultation, and it's your chance to read it and reflect on what's there. So I encourage you to read it. When I read it, I liked a lot of what I read, but not everything. And so I'm guessing you're going to have the same. It's meant to be provocative. Melda's smiling, and she wants you to have your say. So read it, get a little angry, get a little excited, and tell Imelda what you're excited about and what you're mad about. That's what she wants. We owe it to our future PhD students. In the international space, we opened up our China liaison office last year to help us with all the work we're doing in China. It sits alongside our North American liaison office and a new office in Singapore that we're opening up alongside CSIRO in the High Commission. We do a lot of work in the US, China, and Singapore, and these offices are there to help you. And so if you're doing things there, please let us know and let us help you. If you have ideas, again, put them in. And these are, these are really to help support the research and engagement that we're doing, as well as support our students. But as members of this university, these are things ultimately there to help you. Delivering on our unique responsibilities as a national university has been a unifying theme of the last, 2.5 years that I've been here. And so that has been a focus of what we're doing for the last 6 months. One of the things we've been focusing on is our engagement with Indigenous Australia. And so earlier this month, we hosted the First Nations Governance Forum, where we partnered with all 4 Indigenous federal parliamentarians, joined with international experts, including 2 of the UN Special Rapporteurs, to reignite discussion of policy reform around significant issues concerning Indigenous Australians. And I think we did very well. I was very pleased and inspired to hear of such a diversity of voices from not just around Australia, but around the world, talking about how we can approach these things. And it's clear there's a way forward. And it's been manifested in different ways in Scandinavia, in Central America, in the United States, in Canada, in New Zealand. So there is a way. And it became driven home that of the OECD nations, Australia is the only country right now that does not formally recognize its Indigenous members of society. And that is not in accord with treaties or with UN documents that we have signed. And so I think that's something we're going to have to keep working on, one way or another. ANU will continue to be part of this change, contributing wherever we can to the conversations about governance, sovereignty, and equality. But we are a facilitator, not a think tank, so we will continue to facilitate those things. We had a whole bunch of people, including Mick Dodson, Asmi Wood, Ann Martin, and Ray Lovett, from Indigenous members of our campus, who were supported by Sean Ennis at the Policy Hub, as well as Jenny Nutter from my office, Lauren Barch, also from the Policy Hub, and Marion Irvine, who we were able to second out of science to help us for 6 months. So I do think we placed it back on the national agenda. Indeed, a joint Senate Select Committee has been convened, I would say probably related to what we're doing, and met in the middle of our forum. So I think we can expect to see more activity there. Of course, we've made our own commitment through our Reconciliation Action Plan, and we have also launched our online Indigenous Cultural Awareness Program. And I encourage, if you haven't started going through that, do it. It is really very interesting, and I encourage you to have teas around the university. Get everyone together and just have a chat about it. That's how you're going to become aware. You will learn things, because most of us have not been exposed to this in our previous lives. That's just a feature of Australian society, or for immigrants like me, the fact that, truly it is new for me. When I started in this role as Vice-Chancellor, I said I wanted to make sure that ANU maintained and improved its position as one of the world's greatest universities. This is because the university has, quite frankly, empowered me in the Nobel Prize-winning work I was able to be part of, and I want to make sure that as many people in the future have those same opportunities. But great universities are more than just excellent research and education. They are about what we stand for and what our principles and values are, how we reflect ourselves in our day-to-day conversations. And they're about respect for each other, for our environment, for ourselves, diverse opinions around the world. So an enormous amount of work has been done across the university to improve what I see as some fundamental and long-standing issues in our community, including those around sexual harassment and sexual assault. So on the 1st of August, it'll be a year since the Australian Human Rights Commission shed what I think we can all agree was a pretty ugly light in what was happening here on our own campus, but of course around the country. So in the last 12 months, we have been making many needed changes, but of course we still have a lot to do. But being part of the ANU community means acting and behaving in a way that is consistent with our values. So if we really are to be inclusive, open, and respectful, and reflect the diversity of our nation, and if we are to be committed to integrity and ethical behavior in everything we do, we really do need to value, enable, and reward, and celebrate collegiality, because I think all those things flow from that. Belonging to our community means acting and behaving in a way that reflects these values. And I cannot emphasize strongly enough that these are thresholds for being part of our community, every bit as much as our academic standards. I have no problem letting anyone go if they do not reflect those standards. Anyone. And I would expect to be removed from this university myself if I didn't uphold those standards. In August, we will be launching an LGBTI alumni network, which will be among the first in Australia from the university sector, demonstrating the commitment of our alumni cohort to creating an open and inclusive community. When you talk to that community, many people were deeply affected by their time here in a positive way. And I think that is something we can build on. Our values stretch across everything we do, and I'm pleased that in one area that needed to be addressed is being given the attention it deserves through our new admissions program we talked about earlier. It will be transformational for ANU as we look at the whole person behind their academic score. Equity in admissions is an area where many great universities around the world have historically struggled, because not everyone starts out on a level playing field in terms of their academic opportunity. We want to look at the talent and potential of a person across a range of areas as much as their academic background. And I think at the university we have the ability, leading from the front, to help address some of the inequitable issues that are emerging in Australia and have, from my perspective in my homeland of the United States, completely swamped other issues. We want to get out in front. For those people coming to ANU from every walk of life, I want ANU to continue to provide a unique personal education experience for our students. But to do that, we need to remain relatively small. In the future, the faces of ANU students and staff should mirror the faces of the university. So that smallness doesn't mean we're going to shrink, but it means we stay at a size not dissimilar to where we are, where we can literally have a good idea of most people on campus, where students feel part of the community, not people who commute to it and leave as soon as possible. Our students and our staff bond to the university in a way other students and staff don't across Australia. I don't want to lose that. How we design our campus in the future is intrinsically linked to the way our students and staff engage. In a little over 6 months, we will, God willing, open Cambry. It's the heart of our university, and it will be exciting. You can already see the little laneways near Chifley Library taking place, and you can imagine that being full of places you want to walk and feel part of a vibe. It is going to be exciting. I do recognize how painful it is. When I have to walk across to CBE, it's a bit of a nightmare. And I'm sorry, but people have been very supportive, and I appreciate it. So that is excitement that will be realized. So it has been a tough year, but I do appreciate you putting up with it. But we need to think long term. So we are doing a campus master plan. And a campus master plan is for everyone to think about. What is the university going to look like? Now, the university has had, I think, 4 master plans. They've all been essentially abandoned from day one. And I swear to God, we're not going to do that this time. But that means we got to get it right. Okay? So, yes, there are going to be some conversations around parking. Vice-Chancellors love those. But I think we need to think about is, what does a great university look like? Buildings are important, but the strength of the campus is, I think, the outdoor nature of it. It has this amazing feel to it, so we don't want to lose that. But on the other hand, wouldn't it be nice to be able to get from point A to point B and have some clue how you're going to get there? Because right now it's really a bit of a labyrinth of which there are 27 different ways to get from, for example, CBE to physics. And so we need to think about how we're going to grow it and make sure it doesn't just become a sprawl, but rather gets, I would say, some order to it without losing that beautiful character to it. So we need to think 10, 15, even 20, 50, 100 years. Let's think of that organizing structure that we were handed in 1946 and abandoned after creating University House. So I think it's something for all of us to be part of. We are living in interesting and remarkable times. Thank you, one and all, for ensuring that this remarkable university continues to thrive. There will always be challenges and, of course, opportunities ahead of us. The future is very exciting. I'm very lucky to have inherited the university at a time right now. It's one of the most exciting times in the world, where the world is literally looking to the universities to provide guidance and information of how to deal with the future challenges. You know, from a financial point of view, the university is in very strong shape, and we can thank Ian Young, the previous Vice-Chancellor, for leaving the university in that shape for me. ANU is filled with remarkable people of exceptional talent, and I want each of us to be bold, and to be confident, and to be ambitious, but to do that with empathy, compassion, respect, and collegiality. I do thank all of you coming here today, and I do hope this rather long speech has created some room for your questions. Thank you.